We have all been there. You're wandering through the tall grass, trying desperately to get to the next town, when all of a sudden you're yoinked into an unwanted battle. Random battles have been a huge part of RPGs for the past several decades. But are they needed? Or are these battles just a desperate attempt to try and cling to the past? So stick around, because some of the changes I'm going to propose in this video could dramatically change the genre forever. Let's get on the same page here. A random encounter is an unavoidable battle that your party has to beat while they're progressing through a new area. These encounters are considered random for two reasons. First, you never know when exactly they are going to come and attack you. It's going to happen on any random square on the map. And second, what specifically you're going to be fighting also is random. It's never the same thing 2 times in a row. There's several variables that go into these random encounters. The whole point of this is to make the world feel dangerous and alive, giving you that sense that behind the next corner there's going to be something that you can't see that is going to attack you. From a strategy aspect, this means that as players, we should be rationing off our mana, our abilities, all of those special things that we only have a certain amount of uses of. If we just went and blew our load on the first encounter, we wouldn't have enough juice in the tank to make sure that we can get through to the next checkpoint. This is how the system is supposed to work. But let me know if this sounds familiar. You go on a journey to get to the next town or area that you need to visit. You wander through, and your progress keeps getting interrupted by random battles, and these battles are about the same level as your party. You go, you fight, you win, but it's using your resources. You're still relatively close to town, so it's easier for you to just wander back and heal up before you push any further. So you go back to the previous town, you heal your party up, and then you go back on the road again, just for the same cycle to repeat. What does this lead to? This leads to you doing a ceaseless grind until your party becomes so strong that all of the encounters that are designed to challenge you just become obsolete. This is going to be the most lukewarm take ever, but grinding experience isn't fun. So obviously random encounters in their current form aren't great, but what's the alternative? In the 1000-Year Door, Mario's enemies are scattered in plain sight for you to either battle or attempt to ignore. This system works great. You get to choose to fight when you want. You get to go into the fights on your own terms, and overall it does feel less grindy. But this causes a whole other problem. Can you really skip all of these encounters that are laid out on the map for you? I don't think you can. If you did skip all of these encounters, how are you possibly going to have enough experience to keep up with the game's progression loop and keep up with the challenges that are supposed to be coming down the line? So if you take this seen enemies approach to the encounters, you all of a sudden have to fight everything you see on screen at least once. The game's expecting you to do that. I would still argue this is better than pure randomness. I just always tell myself when I'm starting a game like this that I have to fight everything once as I see it on screen, and that approach hasn't betrayed me yet. But this does run the risk of alienating players who do want to skip trivial encounters, or worse, whenever you want to do a difficulty spike in the game, are you going to be pushing your players to have to go backwards and farm? Again, leading to that grinding experience that we both can agree is bad. Let's just say I'm not completing the Pit of 100 Trials in Paper Mario, not because I don't want to, but because I don't want to grind experience just to grind more experience. So what are we supposed to do then? It seems that both truly random encounters and scripted random encounters are not good enough. So is the entire genre just doomed? I really don't think so, and I'm going to propose 3 different solutions now in a good, better, best style of format. Starting with the good, imagine that we keep the random encounters as they are. Purely random, can happen on any square. But once you clear that area that you've been fighting in, you just don't have the random encounters anymore. I could see this being controlled by an option in the menu that says, remove the obsolete encounters. That way that does give players the agency. If players want to have this option off so that whenever they go back to old locations, they keep having to grind through mobs that make no sense for them to be fighting, power to them. But for those of us that just want to go back and explore, get collectibles, or just see the scenery, we don't have to engage with that. The better approach is something I saw while I was researching this. Apparently in the game Wild Arms, their system seems to keep the players engaged and keeps the heart of the danger this randomness is supposed to provide. Basically, before each random encounter, an exclamation point gets tossed onto the screen, and it's color-coded to tell the player what the heck is about to happen to them. Red would mean that you're fighting. This is an unavoidable random encounter, but it's in the minority of instances, so it's not that big of a deal. White means you get to choose if you can react on time. If you're fast enough, then you don't have to battle. Or if you want, you can choose to take on the extra battle for your grinding needs or whatever you want. But if you're too slow and not engaged in the world, then you're battling no matter what. Then finally, green means that you've never done the encounter before. This means that you can fill out your monster journal or just experience each monster type in battle to appease this completionist part of your soul. The reason this system is so good is it encourages the player to be engaged in the world and preserves the good parts of random encounters. The red shows you that sometimes danger is unavoidable. The green gives you the opportunity to see everything that the game has, and the white gives you the flexibility to experience the game at your own pace. This would allow you to grind where you want, or maybe you don't want to get into an extra encounter because there's a puzzle on screen that you'd rather focus on at the moment. Assuming that the player is engaged enough with the screen in front of them, they have the agency to make the game their own. Admittedly, that's a really good solution. How can we do even better than that? The best approach is honestly going to be pretty controversial, but please hear me out until the end. I honestly think abandoning the idea of experience in its entirety is the way forward. For example, in Dungeons & Dragons, the game is traditionally run with an experience point system, but that could lead to players becoming murder hobos or grinding for experience. How does Dungeons & Dragons fix this? Well, there's an optional rule that allows groups to level up based off of milestone leveling. Milestone leveling means the entire group levels up at fixed points in the story. So after you would meet the big bad guy for the first time, or escape a prison, or do a certain amount of side quests, your entire group levels up at the same time and at the same point. And as many game masters are going to tell you, myself included, this makes balancing the game significantly easier, and it also makes more sense from a storytelling perspective to have the player's strength just incrementally get better at fixed points rather than them just grinding to get ahead of the difficulty curve. Think about it. If you wanted to get through Viridian Forest, you can't just grind metapods until Bulbasaur evolves into a killing machine. You would have to get through the encounters that exist in the forest. And if you can't ration your resources properly, you have to backtrack to the previous town, restore up, and then try again. You would be no stronger than you were the last time. The only difference in experience is the knowledge that you, as a player, have from a meta sense to tackle the challenge better this next time. This gives the designer the ability to more easily thread in different difficulty settings or difficulty modes that would help different gamers find the way they want to progress through the game. But what I like about this approach is it takes away that itch in the back of your head while you're playing a traditional RPG, which, did I grind enough? Should I really be here right now? It gets rid of that question in its entirety if you are on a more set story path. And that's why I think this is the future of the RPG genre. If it's random encounters or placed encounters, in both cases I think that the entire genre is going to benefit a lot from moving away from a traditional experience point based system. But honestly, I'm gonna go and try Wild Arms and I'm gonna report back because their system seems like a really crazy good compromise. But ultimately, that is just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments down below. I'm curious to see. Subscribe to this channel while you're scrolling down there, and I'll see you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.